Yeah, so we're live with Karla Ukman. Did I say your last name right?
Yukman, but
Ukman.
I'll answer to
Ukman.
anything.
And she is a wealth planner, and I'm the founder of Empire Life, Allison Ramsey. And we're going to be talking all different topics related with female business owners on money mindset mastery and what that looks like. And do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. You and I have been stalking each other for the past, I would say, 4 or 5 months. And I just really enjoy what you're doing and what you're bringing to women business owners and how you support them. And so when we were chatting, I was like, yes, let's do some lives. Let's talk about this because it's just so important that women feel supported. And that's why I do what I do. So I am Karla Yukman. I am wealth planner and founder of Artemis Wealth Management, and I am not your father's advisor. And what does that mean? That means that I work with women and marginalized communities where I create a safe space for you to build wealth your own way. And I really truly believe that if we have the education behind all things finance, we can change generations to come. So that is who I am. And thank you for having me again, Allison.
Yeah, and this is one of many. I
Yes.
can't wait to do even more lives. I'm getting more familiar with StreamYard, and so far I'm loving it, and I appreciate your recommendation on that.
Yeah.
And also we're gearing up, in a way I've scaled back a little bit, or I've niched down a little bit with my offers, and we're fully focused on the mastermind, and it's a 2-year program. And if anybody joins or they feel like they might be a good fit from the live, we're going to give a 10% discount on the
Ooh.
first month, which could be like $500 to $5,000 depending on which level they want to be at, or what they
Amazing.
want in their package.
Whoa, people, you need to jump on that.
And I love this topic too because 2 of the months in the mastermind are fully focused on the money mastery and or money mindset. And there's some topics that we even talked about, or we will be talking about on the upcoming podcast too, and we've talked about in our last calls, in how to really embrace how much money is flowing in. Well, I want to kind of go down the stream, like how much money is flowing in and fully receiving that. And then once you have that amount of money and your desires are being fulfilled with your money goals, what do you do with it? And there's the mindset piece around it to even get to that point. But then once you are at that point, you need a financial planner, wealth planner like Karla. And let's dive more into the beginning. Like, how do you get to that, or what is your viewpoint on how you get to that point of really feeling worthy of the money that's coming in?
Yeah. Yes, this is so important because I talk about this a lot when we're either inheriting money or we're building our businesses and we have all this money coming in, or we're just starting out and we have more money than we've ever had before based off of our business and what we've done. And society gives us these myths that we are taught as women from the very beginning, at a young age, that we are not good with money, we're not good at math, we spend too much, and that really does affect our mindset. And when we're talking about receiving and the abundance and then also creating wealth, we have to make sure that we understand those are myths. Those are myths that society is constantly giving us, and we are good with math. We are good with money. Statistically, actually, women are better when it comes to budgeting and cash flow and investing than men. And
Wow.
yeah, and so we also are the ones that are taking care of the household cash flow. And 80% of women worldwide are doing that. So when we're having these things on the internet streets, and
Mm-hmm.
entertainment telling us that we're not good with money, that's actually false. Statistically, we are. So that's one way that you can shift your mindset.
Yeah, yeah. This girl math thing is
Oh.
is kind of infuriating. Don't get me started.
Did you see my post a couple months
Yeah,
ago about
I
that? Oh,
did. I
yes,
love
yes.
that. Yeah, I remember commenting on it. Like, yes, yes.
That was a controversial post, people. I posted
Yeah.
about how I don't like girl math. And
Yes.
uh, I'll keep it brief, but the reason that I don't like it is because it feeds into the myths that we're being told we're not good at math, and we're making excuses for certain behaviors when it comes
Mhm.
to wealth, and it's feeding into the what society tells us. And so that's why I don't like the girl math. And the aha moment for me was when my daughter was saying certain things, and she's 18, and she's like, oh, it's just girl math. And I'm like, whoa, this is impacting women's thought process to wealth and money more than we ever have known. And so that's why I don't like the girl math thing.
Yeah, my daughter, who's almost 17, has said that too recently to me, and the TikTok,
Yeah.
you know, exacerbating that topic. And I asked her, "Would you ever say, oh, that's just boy math? Would you ever
Mm-hmm.
say that to a guy?" She was like, "I don't know. It's not like that's not how it is, mom." Like, well, if it's not how it is, why is it okay to say girl math if you wouldn't say the same thing to a guy
Mm-hmm.
and him not be offended? Yeah.
Yes. And I've seen, the excuses, oh, you can't take a joke. You can't. We're, we're both about joking. We're both about having
Mhm,
fun, but
mhm.
we have to take a step back and look at how are these things being fed into the social media and affecting not only our young generation, but also us currently.
Yeah, and all we can do is set that example for the future generations. And I always say rise together, because I want to send. Well, if I'm in an elevator and it's at the 10th floor, for example, I want to send it down to the fifth and bring more people up. If someone's at the 20th floor, I would love to get in that elevator and go to the 20th floor with them. Like, we have to continuously be rising together or helping each other to get up to the higher levels. And definitely math, or encouraging each other to be better at taxes or better at our finances, looking at the budget. I mean, I am the one who handles most of the taxes in our house, and my husband loves that. But he understands that that's more of my expertise, and eventually I will hire a tax professional. But I'm not at that point. Well, I think we will be next year, but we're almost like on the precipice of needing the financial planner, the bookkeeper,
Mm-hmm.
and a tax professional or CPA to be part of the money team. And I'm always thinking about that as I grow with Empire Life. But I definitely think it's great to know how to do all those things to some extent
Yeah.
before hiring them.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And that's part of the financial literacy, right? Part of
Hmm.
the education. It doesn't mean that just because you hire somebody doesn't mean that you shouldn't understand the basics. I think that's huge. Understanding the basics of each of those and why you're hiring somebody and what they're offering. And so you can ask questions too.
Yeah, totally. You just reminded me of a story. I wanted to tell a little bit of a childhood story. When I was in first grade, they had this school-wide math competition, and I didn't even realize that I was good at math at that time. It was fairly fast for me when I would get homework. I would be able to finish in a few minutes, but I just thought that's kind of all homework because it didn't feel that I needed to spend a lot of time, but not trying to brag. But especially with math, I was like,
Right.
"Oh, I totally get this," but in my head, I had it that girls aren't really good at math and good at science. And then they had us go up to the board, so they did it school wide, and we were in each classroom. And I was in public school my whole life in really big schools, and there was like, groups of people that would go to the board and we would work out a problem, and whoever finished the quickest and showed all their work in the correct way got to move on to the next classroom, and eventually until there was like 3 people at the board out of, I don't know, 500. And I was one of those 3 people with 2 other boys. And I remember they had kind of an audience. So they brought some kids to the room where the top 3 people were. And people were like, "Oh my God, she's the only girl," or "Look, it's a girl up there," because they had never seen something like that before. And I think it kind of made me a little bit more anxious and kind of shaky that I probably didn't get the second or first, because I thought, well, I'm just a girl up here. I I don't know if I'm supposed to get first. So like they're already talking in a negative way about me even making it to this point. And I remember I went home too and told my parents, and they were like, "We don't know whose kid you are. Like, we're," which made me feel even more alienated. And like, why do you care? Why do you care about math? Why don't you focus on something that's, more girly, right?
Oh,
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how I got there. I just really like it. I just did it as quick as I could and showed my work, and somehow I got to the top 3 in the school. And I just I'm not sure why I feel better at this. When my parents ask me, like, why do you even like math? Like, we don't like math.
that I feel like that would be something my parents would have said too. I was never huge into math. That wasn't my thing. But what your story, like that is exactly what we're being taught, right? That mindset
Mhm,
that we're from a young age, that we as girls and women cannot be good at math. And then people,
mhm.
bless your parents' heart, but it's like, even those comments, it's like, oh, you know, it's just, yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I hear those stories all the time.
I'm sure you do. And when I went to college, I wanted to do something with math and science because I felt like that's easier for me, or it's still going to be challenging enough to keep me stimulated, mentally stimulated, yet it comes a little easier than writing, for example, even though I'm a best-selling author at this point. But I had to work very hard on the writing part, and spelling, I'm the worst speller, so I have to put a lot more effort into those areas. Not that it's not doable, but it
Hmm.
takes a lot more energy and effort. And I remember my parents saying, "Why don't you think about something more like nursing, because there's more women, and that's mostly women do that." Because I was talking about becoming a doctor, and I do have a master's in natural medicine at this point. But I remember thinking, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll try to figure that out. I volunteered 2 summers following around nurses, and I thought, that's not really my calling. My heart goes out to them. Like, they get told what to do a lot of times, that the doctors don't want to do those things.
Hmm.
And I learned a lot about all the medicines that people are on, and how I probably wanted to stay out of the hospital if I could, by doing the volunteering with them. But
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That reminds me, my mom gave me this little thing that I created in grade school. You know how they ask, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I put on there, and I think it was like first or second grade. And she gave it to me a couple weeks ago, and it said that I want to be a nurse. And she goes, "Oh, I didn't know that you wanted to be a nurse." And I told her, I said, that was the only profession that I thought that women could have. And that's why I wrote it
yeah.
down. And um Now, we obviously need nurses, right? But where I'm going with this is there's a huge world out there of, math and science and other professions that women are underrepresented in. And I went straight to the where I only saw women, and that was, or a teacher, right? Like you see a lot of women teachers and
Mhm.
nurses. And so when we're talking about money and wealth, we're from a young age putting ourselves in the box of what we want to do career wise as well, which is
It's
going to
so
affect
true.
your money mindset.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I'm not sure what gave me that idea, and I thought if that person could be a surgeon, then why couldn't I try to be a surgeon and or something that's different than, or maybe a little bit more education, like that sound clip. Well, if boys do it, why not do it? I don't know if you've seen those
Yeah. Yep.
lately. Yeah, and that it just almost makes me teary eyed when I see that. And not that it was a conscious decision. Like I really love golf, and I still feel like when I go play, and I'm a member of a country club now, which I'm just like so grateful. But when I go there, I am probably usually the only woman on the course or at the driving range, and I still think that women are very underrepresented in, and then it keeps them represented because they don't see, like when I see a woman, I always try to wave and at, for example, at the golf course, and
Hmm.
I'm like, maybe they can be my friend. Maybe we can go talk. Maybe we can play together because it's so rare that I see one. But
Yeah.
and then on top of that, taking it seriously.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're out there, not really taking, not feeling like maybe I can be good at this, and kind of messing around. And I don't really want to, because when I do something, I want to be really good at it, or I want to do my best. I want to learn how to play in a high level way, over time. So I don't really match with that mindset. But when I see a fellow woman like really taking it seriously and killing it, that makes me so happy, and think we need to get more. Just an example of that, I see myself, or I have been in a lot of those situations where I'm the only female in the room, or maybe one out of three, as I've also a software developer and was in corporate in that, and I was the only woman at the company. And so it doesn't intimidate me in any sense. It more motivates me, like, we need to rise together more. We need to come together, which is part of why I'm doing the mastermind again. This is our third time of bringing the circle of super supportive women that are intuitive, that want similar things in life and dream really big, and have this initiative to meet their desires, or go out there and achieve them, and with each other's support, with being able to turn around and refer other women to each other, and just rally in each other's corner.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's and that all goes into our wealth mindset because
Mhm.
it if we're not pushing the boundaries, then how are we going to change the environment and the world for us to build wealth? And if we um, stay in our comfort zones with being told that we can't do certain things or we can't be in those rooms, we're not changing. And like I say, generations, and that's the whole thing that you and I are super passionate about. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm super passionate too about leaving a legacy.
Hmm.
Like I want, my daughter and I were watching some parts of Griselda, the new show on Netflix, or it might be not new if you're watching this later. Uh, she is really pushing to be in rooms where it's only men, and they're telling her, "Why don't you just go be a housewife again? Like, you look like a housewife, or you're a woman, or you must be a, bitch because you actually have a voice, or you're bossy," or these things, these negative things that are sometimes attached to women like us that are showing up strongly and, trying to revolutionize the world to make it a better place, but also wanting to serve those underrepresented population, like women. And I wanted to get a little bit more personal too about some of your journey from maybe like more of a scarcity mindset and to more of an abundance mindset or prosperity. And if you wanted to share maybe like a story or are some of your strategies to get to that point
Yeah.
or how you did.
Yeah, so I'm very open about talking about my journey. And I got married when I was 20. I was pregnant, and my husband and I had no money, and we were part of the system. So we didn't have health insurance, and when I had my daughter, it was very traumatic, and there's just a lot of things that happened. But we moved to a very poor area because we had no money, and it didn't come from generational wealth. And so I use this all the time, and I talk about this. We had hamburger helper without the hamburger because we couldn't afford the hamburger, and then 2008 hit. And there was just a lot that went on with money mistakes. I made tons of money mistakes because I had no guidance. And, schools don't teach us financial education. They should. And my parents did the best that they could. But when you come from, an environment where you're just trying to survive and being told that you're not worthy of any education either. So whenever I asked for help from either even just going into the bank and asking for help, or anybody that is in the financial world, they judged me because I had made money mistakes. I didn't have enough money, and the experience was just very traumatic. Really, there was a lot of money trauma. And going through, I worked in corporate, and that helped because I started making more money. And that was an aha moment for me before I got into this industry was there are so many layers when it comes to money, and money is very emotional. And
Mhm.
when I'm trying to ask for help and I'm being judged, and they also wanted to talk to my husband, not me, I was like, hold on. I see a issue in the financial world, and I'm going to get into the financial world so that I can create an environment that's different. And I'm also going to call these people out for treating us differently and other groups differently just because we don't fit in their box.
Mhm.
And so throughout the beginning of my career, I did have to shift my mindset of I am worthy of wealth. These myths that I've been told throughout my life does not define who I am, and the zeros in my bank account do not define my worth of wealth. And I think that's a huge thing when I'm talking to my clients is they come to me, they're like, oh, I don't have this much money saved, or I only have this, and they're already on the defense. And we need to shift the way that we think. And it's like, okay, that's okay. Like, you're here now. Let's work through that and understand just because you have this amount of money doesn't mean that you're not worthy of more.
Oh
We're
my
going to keep
gosh,
working toward
yes, yes.
that.
I'm gonna double check on my Instagram that we went live because I think I had to press something.
Oh,
One sec.
oh, tech.
Okay, there we go. I think I'm also live there now too.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. I realized that I had to press on something specifically on the Instagram.
Uh,
I amen to that. I hold, yeah. I'm totally on the same page with you. I've made a lot of money mistakes. I filed for bankruptcy. I think it was 2000, I'm trying to think, 2012 before I started my third business. And that was after I had two businesses. And I thought, I'm just going to go back in corporate. I'm going to kind of coast. Maybe this whole business thing is not for me. Yeah, right. I totally know that's not true. And I was thinking I need to recover from that. I was so judged when I tried to go in, even to rent an apartment. They're like, "Yeah, we don't trust you. You have to have cleared this for 5 years." So I had to have a co-signer, in my 30s. It was so embarrassing. And there's so many other things. I couldn't open a credit card. And then as time went on and I had all that self forgiveness, I realized, oh, a lot of really successful people have filed for bankruptcy in the past, and that's actually not. I mean, even a lot of people in my family were like, "Yeah, you're just not good with money. I mean, you just got to understand that." So there's a lot of like naysayers related to that learning experience or money mishap, because like you, I came from, well, I came from a really a poverty environment, and I didn't know how to manage money or budget or anything related to the business side of things, and keeping up with inventory and how many clients I need to have in order to keep the business running. None of those things were as or understanding even in my vocabulary in my first business. I had to learn all those, I guess, the school of hard knocks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the school of hard knocks. And I hope that, throughout the years with women like yourself and myself, and there's tons of other women out there that, want to push for this mindset shift when it comes to money, and also providing education behind, wealth and managing wealth.
Yes, yeah, which is why I love being able to talk about that in the mastermind, and then I'm bringing a previous client to also come in and talk about that too in the mastermind. And you're a huge resource for all of the Empire Life community as well, because you know how that feels to be judged, like you were just talking about, for the everything in me. I know personally, everything in me before I started Empire Life was like, maybe you're just not good at that. Maybe you just need to like put that to the side because you filed for bankruptcy in your second company, and maybe that's just not for you. And obviously that is not the truth. I was able to overcome all of that, or forgive myself and work through it in counseling, and just crying and letting go of all of that came with the feeling like you have failed in some way. And I would love for you to speak to that more too.
Yeah. I I read a lot of blogs, and listened to other women, and I did not listen to men. So this is not a man bashing. I love men. We need them as allies. But when it comes to wealth and building wealth, they have different opportunities. Certain classes of men have different opportunities than women. And so I made sure that I was surrounding myself with women that had different mindsets when it comes to wealth and didn't have a scarcity mindset. And that actually helped a lot. And I'm still doing that. And I had permission from these other women to charge what I'm worth. And that can be, by the way, that can be skewed a lot of different ways of charging what you're worth, but meaning you don't get free resources from me unless I am, comfortable with it, because women give a lot of free time, free resources without being, paid. And also, if the men can ask for sales or contracts or, all these other things in business, then I can do the same thing. And that really helped with my scarcity mindset shift, because I was like, oh, these women are building wealth. They're doing it in a way that gives me permission. And when I started in this business, I also had an open door to people that looked wealthy on the outside, but are really not. And believe it or not, that actually helped too, because
Yeah.
that helped so much, because all these people are putting out there that they're, wealthy, and they're really not. And that helped me shift my mindset as well, the way that I thought about wealth.
That's a good, yeah, all of those are great points. With the last one, I would love to speak to that too, because with Empire Life, when I first started it, I was seeing the back end or the systems of the women's businesses, and I felt similar to that. Like, okay, there is not as many systems, so they're going to continue to feel overwhelmed unless we put some automations or systems into the back end. And I think that's something similar where a lot of people might see. And I was noticing that some people maybe post once a month, and then they have told me that they like buy people to like their posts or buy comments because they can't handle. I mean, it's hard. I'm not saying that it's not like something to let go of or to transition into, uh, like not seeing people like their posts, or seeing people not enough people like comments that they are content with. And I always err on the side. I've seen that in the back end, and I always err on the side of posting more than you feel comfortable with, even if no one likes the post, or you don't have as many comments as you'd like, because you'll grow over time, and if you keep at it. And I think that's similar with the back end of the finances. And I have also seen that with previous clients, and especially at the beginning, I've seen 50 to 100,000 in debt, but they're also saying on social media, I'm an 8-figure earner, and they're being told by someone else, you just have to say that enough, and then you will be, or you need to invest in my program, and then you will be, if you keep putting that out there. So in a sense, I don't even really trust when I see. I kind of try to aim personally to stay away from saying I'm a 9-figure earner, or I made $1 million this month, or whatever that might look like, because it's really no one's business exactly how much I make in my business. But I think at the same time, really wealthy people don't say stuff like that. I don't know, maybe that's a controversial thing to say, but if you're really wealthy, you don't need, just like if you're really smart, you don't need to say, "Well, I'm so smart. I went to MIT, and you need to see how smart I am." It's it doesn't I don't feel like it truly works like that. When I've met ultra wealthy people, you wouldn't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
usually.
I think both of those, that's straight on. I think the problem is that people have money as a bad word. And so when they come across and they start posting about how much money they're making in their business, it's just one of those things where I see the mindset shift when it comes to talking about money, and it's automatically like, ooh, we shouldn't be talking about that. Now, I agree with you. I don't think that people need to be, putting out there that I made, this, and this constantly. I do think that we need to celebrate ourselves. And those
Oh,
are
yeah.
different posts. That's not
Different,
what you're
yeah.
talking about. You're talking
Mhm.
about the other posts. But I think that there's too much where people can't differentiate that. on the internet streets where they are celebrating themselves, but they're not celebrating themselves. And we have to make sure that there's a clear line of, I'm celebrating my success as a woman and I made this much and I worked really hard for it and I'm excited about that, versus I'm going to put people into a program based off of this fluff of stuff that I like, this money that I just made that I probably didn't actually make. And
Yeah,
it's
because
hard for people.
it is hard to differentiate for sure, because I even saw a post this morning that this lady was saying she joined a program based on understanding or believing, I don't know if she saw any proof, that the person's program she joined was an eight-figure earner, and she used that term eight-figure earner maybe 20 times in her post. So she's very convinced that is actually the reality, and I thought that's it's a little bit sad if that's the specific reason why. I think it's more based on an accumulation of someone's experience and the wisdom that they have to offer, that then in turn, even if you lost all your money, like I did in the bankruptcy, that you can rebuild again
Mm-hmm.
because you have those tools, is over time more important in the long game than thinking or seeing some representations of wealth, because that's also easy to
Mm-hmm.
replicate, or rent a car and do a photo shoot, for example, which I've had that conversation with my daughter before. She's like, "Oh, but they're so wealthy." I'm like, "Honey, they can rent a house, Airbnb, they can rent a car. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Like, maybe they are to some extent, and a true high net worth earner doesn't need to show you those things, and maybe they're not doing. They appreciate their Lamborghini, for example, and they park it in their garage. They don't need to usually to go
Mm-hmm.
rent it and then do the photo shoot. It would really be theirs, and that fine line is hard to differentiate for sure. And I wanted to talk about too, like opening the conversation for women. This is a big thing with the people in the mastermind that I've been on a lot of these kind of conversations lately, to gain more momentum as we enroll the women that are going to be in the circle there. That how do we even feel comfortable? A lot of women have told me, I don't feel comfortable to talk with other women about money. And I'll give you an example. I was talking to a male colleague the other day, and he was saying that he was in a mastermind where they had to share their screen, or they had a hot seat sort of thing, right? And then they had to share their screen and show all their bank account information to everybody in the group. I mean, maybe not like their account numbers. I don't think
Yeah.
so, to be secure, but they had
Balances,
to
probably.
yeah, just the balances. They had to somehow show, like, this is my financial plan in the future, and this is how much money I'm going to invest. Like, they had to kind of talk it through and give uh, a run of the mill, so to speak, to each person in the group, like what their financial plans were, what they were going to invest, if they were going to buy or acquire any businesses, and then how much money they were going to spend on ads, and just all their financial back ends. And I remember when the my colleague told me about that, I thought, I don't think women would feel comfortable with that. I don't know many women who would talk, or I don't know if they're thinking through all those things. I'm sure that they are, but I don't know if they would feel inferior to other people in the group, or I'm sure like a lot of insecurities would come up to be that open and vulnerable with your finances.
Yeah. I have a lot of opinions about that.
I'm sure that was an interesting take, because I can see the
Um,
benefits of it, of just really talking that through and all the money goals and showing the real numbers. At the same time, I thought, I don't know if that sounds very masculine. I don't know if that's something that would work in my mastermind, but it got my brain working. Like, how can I create that environment where women feel ultimately really comfortable to say, I'm going to invest this amount in ads this next month. And this amount came in revenue. And then after I paid my team, this is how much I had left. To just really be able to discuss it in a matter of fact way. I understand that there are emotions, of course, involved, like we were talking about a lot more, I feel like, than for men, traditionally.
Yeah. So I love having conversations with other women about money and having like, oh, this happened and this is what I'm planning, and keeping yourself accountable and having accountability partner. But that's also where professionals come in, is having a CFO that does the projections with you, and having a bookkeeper, and having a financial planner where all of you are working together. And the issue with that whole scenario where he was talking about opening up like all your stuff and exposing it, that's exactly why women don't talk about money, because we feel too exposed and judged. And if we're put into constant situations, then we're just going to shy away from it and never talk about it. So when we're put into situations where we feel empowered and feel comfortable and we feel okay with being vulnerable, that's where the true growth comes. And so yeah, I wouldn't want to do that in a group with people that I
Yeah,
don't know, that I don't feel safe with. I mean, that's the
I
thing.
totally. Mhm. That's why I said, I appreciate you sharing that with me. Yeah,
Oh
I
man.
don't feel like that's something that's gonna. I mean, with a hot seat, someone can say, "This is what I'm wanting to. This is the goal that I'm wanting to work on." But that's very different than opening up all your balances. And
I would rather have people be more vulnerable with their professionals instead of doing that with a group of unprofessional. Like those people aren't doing your books, they're not doing your taxes, they're not doing your planning. If you want to be vulnerable, you should do it with those type of people, not the randos.
that makes sense. I think they could discuss, or like in my mastermind, we'll discuss some projections, but when it comes to those, like you said, I'm gonna be like, "Who's on your money team?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then these are the things that we need to take to your money team, and then come back to us and say, "This is what I talked about with Carla, my CPA, and my bookkeeper." Do you do bookkeeping as well?
I do
No.
not, but I know
Right.
people that do. Yeah.
Okay. That's what
Yeah.
I thought. I just wanted to clarify that. I
Yeah.
know we're almost out of time. I don't know if you have another appointment coming up, but I would love to do another live with you soon and be able to dive more into the coming to an abundance mindset together and rising together. I think it's a lot about these kind of conversations of being really vulnerable and open and sharing personal stories that then can inspire other women, and they can start to trailblaze their own desires and fully learn to receive the all their goals and desires, and to see them into fruition.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, and I'm excited to do more lives. And for my audience, how can someone get in touch with you, and how can they connect with you?
So for the mastermind, there's an application. If you want to see if you're a good fit to be in that, it's empirelifeacademy.com/mastermind. And if I can go back and put that link to, there's an application at the top of the page. It's really easy to go through if you want to get that special or the 10% off the first month. And then we can talk more personally if that's a good fit for you and what the investment is. And we're getting together different tiers too, to be able to be in the luxury events or pay for them separately. And I'm thinking about also opening every month that we have an event. that tier as well, where you still get access to all the masterminds, that would be the highest tier where we were doing something once a month together in person.
Nice. Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. So my audience, if you haven't connected with her yet, you need to.
Yes, and same for me. Make sure you follow Karla everywhere, and she makes the most amazing posts. She
Oh,
stirs up the controversy sometimes. I love
yeah.
busting the taboos, because there's just too many with
Mhm.
women in finance. We need to bust through that. We need to send the elevator down and back up.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.